The sky over Maple Hollow was bruised with clouds the color of soot. A slow, persistent rain tapped against the tin roof of Eli Granger's roadside auto garage, the only one open past dusk on this forgotten highway stretch. Winter had crept in early that year, bringing with it a cold that gnawed through jackets and bone. Inside the garage, the smell of oil and old coffee lingered in the air. A radio hummed softly in the corner, playing a scratchy country song about loss and longing. Eli, a man in his mid-30s with broad shoulders and a perpetual weariness in his eyes, was finishing up a job under the hood of a dented pickup. His hands, calloused and blackened from years of labor, worked with the precision of habit. From the corner near the old heater, a small voice chirped, "Daddy, do you think we'll get snow tomorrow?" Eli looked over and smiled faintly. His daughter, Maisie, barely 7, sat cross-legged on a flattened cardboard box, drawing with a broken red crayon on the back of a receipt book. Her long chestnut hair was tied up in a messy ponytail, and she wore Eli's oversized flannel as a makeshift blanket. "Maybe, Bug," he replied, wiping his hands on a rag. "But don't go making promises to the snow until you see it fall." Maisie giggled and returned to her masterpiece, a stick figure of Eli holding her hand with a huge red sun above them. He watched her for a moment, a flicker of warmth melting the usual numbness in his chest. After his wife Lila passed 3 winters ago in a roadside accident, the world had dimmed, but Maisie had kept the flame alive. Just as he stood to close the garage for the night, a rustling caught his ear. Through the falling rain and mist, someone was approaching, stumbling, slow, as if unsure whether to keep going. A woman, barely more than a shadow in the dim light of the neon open sign, clutched something to her chest. Eli stepped out from under the garage awning. The cold slapped his face immediately. "Ma'am?" he called out, concern overtaking caution. "You all right?" She stopped under the light, blinking like she hadn't heard her own name in years. Her dress was soaked through. What might have once been satin now clung like a shroud. Around her shoulders, a thin shawl offered no protection. In her arms, a child, perhaps a year old, curled into her, wrapped in a tattered pink blanket. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling like glass. "We just need somewhere dry." Eli didn't hesitate. "Come in. You're freezing." He held the door open as she stepped inside, dripping water onto the concrete floor. She didn't look him in the eye, only kept murmuring soothing words to the baby, who whimpered softly. Maisie's eyes widened as she saw the woman. "Daddy, she's like a princess," she whispered. Eli glanced at the stranger. In another world she might have been. Her features were fine, delicate even, but her face was pale with exhaustion. Mud stained the hem of her once white dress. Her hair was disheveled, and there was a bruise on her wrist, half hidden beneath her shawl. "I'll get a towel," Eli said quietly. He brought her one and a blanket from his truck. She accepted them silently, with trembling fingers. "Name's Eli," he offered after a moment. "That's my daughter Maisie. You don't have to say anything, but you can stay until the rain lets up." She looked up finally. Her eyes were dark, haunted, but when she met Maisie's curious gaze, something shifted, a softening. "Thank you," she said, barely audible. I'm Clara." The baby stirred in her arms, coughing gently. Eli glanced at the little one, then back at Clara. "You both eaten today?" Clara's silence was answer enough. Without another word, he turned to the back corner of the garage, where an old microwave and a dented mini-fridge held his usual night meals. He reheated a container of stew, leftovers from the casserole Mrs. Haskins, the diner owner, had insisted he take home the night before. He handed it to Clara with a plastic spoon. She stared at the meal for a long moment before whispering, "Why are you helping us?" Eli shrugged, pouring himself some coffee. "You look like you needed help. That's enough reason." She didn't reply, but the way her hands trembled around the warm bowl spoke volumes. Maisie crept closer. "What's the baby's name?" Clara looked down at the bundle in her arms, as if remembering she was real. "Luna." Maisie beamed. "I like her. She looks like a sleeping bunny." A breath, almost a laugh, escaped Clara's lips. It was the softest sound in the world, and yet in that small garage, it bloomed like spring breaking through ice. They sat like that for a while. Three strangers and a baby, warmed only by the heat of kindness and a bowl of stew. As the rain hammered the roof and the wind howled through the trees, Eli fetched the old cot he kept in the back for late-night repairs. He set it up near the heater, brought Clara a pillow and Maisie's spare quilt. She laid Luna down with the careful tenderness of someone who hadn't rested in days. Maisie leaned against her father, whispering, "Do you think she's a fairy?" Eli smirked. "Could be." But something about Clara lingered in his mind. The bruised wrist, the wedding dress, the way she hadn't shivered at the cold, like she'd been beyond cold for a long time. Before he turned off the lights, he saw her finally asleep beside her baby, moonlight slipping in through the window, haloing her face. And just before he drifted off himself, Maisie asked sleepily, "Daddy, do you think she'll stay?" Eli didn't answer. He didn't know. But he had a feeling that this unexpected guest had arrived not just to seek shelter, but to bring something back into their lives they didn't know they'd lost. Hope. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving behind a mist that clung low to the fields and highway. The world outside was still damp and quiet, but inside Eli's garage, the smell of fresh eggs and toast drifted through the small break room. Clara sat at the tiny fold-out table, Luna resting in a makeshift cradle crafted from an old toolbox padded with towels. Her eyes followed Eli as he moved through the kitchenette, cracking eggs one-handed, humming under his breath. Maisie sat beside her, munching on toast smeared with peanut butter, chattering about school and how she once saw a raccoon steal Eli's lunch. "You can come too," Maisie said suddenly, looking up at Clara. "To my school. I could tell everyone Luna's my cousin. They won't know." Clara blinked. "Oh, sweetheart, I don't think that's how it works." Eli glanced over his shoulder with a chuckle. "Don't argue with her. She's got plans for just about everyone." They shared a small, quiet laugh. Clara hadn't meant to stay past the night. In her mind, it was just a place to dry off and gather her wits. But Luna hadn't stopped coughing, and her own legs had felt like wet rope by dawn. Eli had simply shrugged and said, "Stay as long as you need. This place has seen worse." So she stayed. One night became two, then three. Days folded into something that felt like rhythm. Clara helped clean the garage, sorting bolts and wiping counters. She cooked dinner one night when Eli came home late, surprising them both with a pot of rich vegetable soup. Luna began sleeping more peacefully, and Maisie clung to Clara's side like a kitten finding warmth. There was never any pressure. Eli never asked questions. He simply let her be. And in return, Clara found herself folding laundry with a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. One chilly morning, she found him fixing Maisie's bicycle on the front porch. Clara brought him a mug of coffee. "You work too much," she said, nudging it into his hands. Eli smirked. "You sound like my mother. She used to say that before she ran off with a traveling magician." Clara laughed, a real open laugh that startled them both. "You're lying," he shrugged. "Only about the magician. She actually ran off with a trucker named Hank." Clara settled on the step beside him, tucking her legs beneath her. There was a long pause. "You don't ask," she said quietly. "Why?" Eli sipped the coffee and looked straight ahead. "Because I figured you'd tell me when you're ready." Her fingers curled around the edge of her sweater. "It wasn't supposed to end this way." She didn't look at him as she spoke. The words came slowly, like leaves falling from a high branch. "I was going to be married last month. Everything was planned. Dress, flowers, music. His parents weren't thrilled, said I wasn't the kind of woman who belonged in their family, not graceful enough, not refined enough, not thin enough." Eli's jaw tightened slightly. "The night before the wedding," she continued, voice distant, "he asked me not to come, said it was too complicated, that he didn't want to fight his family anymore." She glanced down at Luna, her expression breaking. "I think he always wanted to leave. He just waited until it would hurt the most." Eli was quiet for a moment, then said, "Sounds like someone who never deserved you in the first place." She looked at him, startled by the directness and the sincerity. "I'm not sure I'm someone worth keeping," she said softly. Eli met her gaze. "That's not your call to make anymore." The silence between them held something warm, Something not yet love, but maybe the room for it to grow. But even fairy tales have shadows. One evening, after a long day of tire repairs and engine overhauls, Eli returned to the garage and found the cot empty. The blankets neatly folded. Luna's makeshift cradle gone. No note. He stood frozen for a moment, heart pounding. "Clara?" he called, stepping into the misty twilight. "Clara!" Maisie ran out from behind the tool cabinets. "She left." "Where did she go?" Eli's mouth opened, then closed. He didn't have an answer. That night, the garage felt colder than ever. Maisie sat beside him in silence, tracing her finger over the crayon drawing she'd once made of the four of them. Herself, Eli, Luna, and Clara, beneath a big red sun. "She didn't even say goodbye," Maisie whispered. Eli stared at the closed garage doors, his heart heavier than he wanted to admit. Maybe she thought we wouldn't want her to. 2 days passed. On the third, the garage phone rang. It was a woman's voice, clipped and polished. "Mr. Granger, I'm calling on behalf of the Ashford family estate. I believe you may have encountered a woman named Clara recently. We'd like to inquire if she left any belongings in your care." He froze. "Ashford? As in the banking family?" "Yes, Clara Ashford. She was engaged to Mr. Benton Ashford. She's been missing." "Missing?" "She left the estate with her child and hasn't returned. If you know anything—" Eli hung up. Maisie came over, watching him. "Daddy, what is it?" He didn't answer. Instead, he opened the drawer beneath the microwave and pulled out a small cloth bundle Clara had forgotten. Inside was a silver locket with a faded picture. Clara's a child with a woman who looked like an older version of herself, and a much younger Eli in uniform, smiling beside them both. He stared at it, stunned. "What is this?" Maisie asked. Eli's voice was barely above a whisper. I think she knew me, a long time ago." The weight of her disappearance pressed down harder now. No longer just mystery, but memory too, and regret. That night, as the frost crept in and the moon rose high, Maisie tugged at Eli's sleeve. "Daddy," she said, "do you think she'll come back?" Eli looked out the window at the empty road stretching into the mist. "I don't know," he whispered, "but I hope so." He didn't see it yet. The hidden locket would unlock a truth he'd buried. And far from Maple Hollow, Clara stood alone outside an old cemetery gate, her shawl tight around her shoulders, her breath visible in the cold. She held Luna close and whispered into the night, "I'm sorry, Eli. I just needed to remember who I was." The first snow arrived quietly in Maple Hollow. It fell like a whispered promise, covering the garage roof, the cracked pavement, and the front porch in a thin, glowing layer. Maisie woke up early and pressed her nose to the window, breath fogging the glass. "Daddy," she said softly, "it's a snow day." Eli stood behind her, a mug of lukewarm coffee in hand. He hadn't slept well in weeks. Since Clara's disappearance, his days had been a little quieter, a little lonelier. He still set out 3 bowls at breakfast out of habit. Sometimes he caught himself reaching for the spare blanket on the cot, expecting to see Luna's tiny foot poking out. He'd tried calling the Ashford number back, but they'd dismissed him quickly. "The matter is being handled," they said. He didn't press further. Instead, he found himself staring at the locket every night, turning it over in his hand, trying to remember. There had been a girl once, years ago when he was barely 20 and stationed at a rural army post outside Charleston. Her name was Clara Lynn. She'd brought her little sister to the base's annual family picnic, lost a shoe in the mud, and laughed like it didn't matter. They'd talked just for a few days. He remembered a summer storm, a kiss in the back of a pickup, and then life swept them apart. He never knew she remembered him. That evening, the town's winter festival lit up Main Street. Eli didn't plan to go, but Maisie begged. "Maybe she'll be there," she whispered, holding his hand tight. "Maybe she misses us too." So he took her. They arrived just as the lights blinked on, bathing the snowy sidewalks in gold. Laughter echoed. Children ran past with cotton candy and scarves. Eli watched Maisie dart ahead to the carousel, cheeks red with joy. He was about to follow when something in the crowd caught his eye. A woman stood at the edge of the square, near the old fountain. She wore a deep blue coat, her dark hair pinned neatly under a wool hat. She looked different, poised, elegant, but he knew her in an instant. "Clara," he breathed. She turned. Their eyes met across the snowfall, and the world fell silent. She stepped forward slowly. Luna bundled against her chest. "I wasn't sure you'd still be here," she said. Eli blinked. "And I wasn't sure you were real." Clara smiled faintly, though her eyes shimmered. "I'm sorry," she said. "I left because I was scared. I didn't think I could ask you to carry my weight, my history. I didn't think I was allowed to want a place like yours." Eli looked at her for a long moment. "And now?" She shifted Luna gently. "Now I know I've been carrying that place inside me this whole time." There were 100 questions in his heart, but he only asked one. "Was the locket, was that your way of reminding me?" Clara nodded, her voice a whisper. "I didn't think you'd remember. I was just a girl in the rain. But you gave me shelter even then. I guess I hoped you still would." Eli stepped closer. The snow danced around them like blessings. "You were never just a girl in the rain," he said. "You were the one I let slip away. Maybe this time, we do things different." Clara swallowed hard. "I'm not who I used to be, and I'm not sure I'm the woman you think I am." Eli touched Luna's tiny hand, peeking from the blanket. "I don't need you to be anyone else," he said. "Just be here." From the carousel, Maisie shouted, "Daddy, look who I found!" They turned to see Maisie skipping toward them, cheeks glowing. "She came back! You came back!" Clara knelt, arms open. Maisie ran straight into them. Luna squealed softly between them as all three hugged under the falling snow. No longer strangers, no longer broken parts, but something that looked suspiciously like a family. Later that night, they walked home slowly. Clara on one side, Maisie in the middle, Eli on the other. Clara looked up at the stars. "It's strange. I thought my story ended when I left that wedding, but maybe it was just beginning." Eli smiled. "I think the best stories start in the middle." They stepped inside the garage apartment, warm light glowing through the windows, the scent of cinnamon tea waiting in the kitchen. Maisie giggled and tugged Clara to the couch. Outside, the snow fell thick and soft, covering every crack in the pavement, every sign of wear. Inside, 4 bowls sat on the table. This time, none of them went untouched.